Hello, my name is Dominique Crawford, and today I will be discussing about why I feel that the conversations of mass incarceration and excessive imprisonment are not subjects that we need to discuss when we are discussing about the reforms that the criminal justice system needs. Oftentimes, when you have these discussions with people across the aisle, they will try to make you feel guilty about wanting to put people away for their crimes. They will have you thinking that the criminal justice system is just setting out to hurt people, setting out to go and oppress people without acknowledging that the system is there for good. And that while there might be some negative consequences, the overarching benefit outweighs the negative. We can start by talking about the amount of people that are incarcerated. One of the main reasons why I feel like mass incarceration is not something that we need to immediately have on the table when we talk about what we need to do to reform the criminal justice system is because the numbers have been declining. In fact, since 2007, 2008, we have seen a decline in the amount of people that have been incarcerated. We have seen that number go from 760 out of 100,000 people down to 670 per 1,000 people. In fact, by 2016, we were seeing to now, we've seen 11.8 drop. And of course, to some people, they will argue that that is not a high number. They'll say, oh, compared to other countries, they have less people incarcerated. But then you have to think about what the United States is. The United States has a large, dense population of people. It also has a high number of violent crime. That is what prisons and jails are for. They are for us to put those offenders, especially those violent offenders, away. Therefore, that is why our number would be higher if we were to compare them to, let's say, our neighbors in Europe and in Japan. For example, in Europe, they are seeing 76 per 100,000 people and their murder rate is only 1.8. 1.8 per 100,000. That is so much smaller if you compare them to the United States. So of course it's going to look like we are incarcerating more people. Another thing why people will try to argue with you and say that mass incarceration is bad is because they say that it affects blacks disproportionately. However, there is research from the Pew Center that says that black people have seen a decline of 98,000 people since 2009, which is in fact at a 20-year low. That is the lowest it has ever been. So clearly we're doing something right. Clearly they are not experiencing these high numbers that people would have you think. People would have you believe that they are just locking up every black person, that we are locking up people disproportionately, and clearly it's showing, the research shows you that we are actually doing less of that now. What people fail to tell you when they're telling you all these negative things about the criminal justice system is that they fail to tell you the other half. The fact that studies show that we are actually under incarcerating people. There are people in areas such as Chicago that have committed crimes and the police don't have a good relationship with them, and therefore they can't go in and talk to the community. The community protects those people from incarceration. They protect them, and therefore the police can't arrest those people. And that means that those cases go unsolved. That means we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that should be incarcerated that are not. Another thing is when they talk about these incarcerations, they fail to put the importance on what we made our criminal justice system for. Our criminal justice system was made for public safety. It was made to keep people safe. And what that means is if we have someone that goes out and commits a crime, we're not going to let them roam free. We're not going to do some kind of social justice where maybe we shun them, where you will experience, which you will experience in other countries. We're going to go and we're going to take them off the street, and we're going to go and do things such as rehabilitate them and give them the skill that they need to be better people. They will try to make it seem as if putting people away in jail is not the right thing to do, but sometimes that's what people need. People need to be taken out of a situation to better themselves. And they will also have you look at these extreme outlying cases to try to motivate you, and these cases that show mistreatment in jails. They'll show you these cases where, there are a lot of people in one particular cell. Those are outlier cases. That is not the vast majority of cases. According to PATH, he will tell you that if you're looking at the average number of cases, the amount of people that are sitting in prison is a lot smaller. And the amount of time that these people are spending in prison is a lot less. That is something to recognize. If we're going to say that the issue is mass incarceration, but we're seeing these numbers decline, that means that there's something else going on that is contributing to the amount of people in jail, and it is not mass incarceration. The agenda that they keep trying to push is that we are trying to harm people, that is for profit, when in fact that is not true. Most of the people that are incarcerated are not in private prisons as they would have you believe. Actually, only 7% of them, those people, are in state prisons that are privately funded. And that is important to know. Those things are what you have to think about when you are discussing mass incarceration, discussing whether or not it's an issue. The numbers of people that are incarcerated are decreasing. The number of private companies that are benefiting from them being incarcerated are decreasing. So clearly they're not incarcerating people for profit. And then you have the amount of time that they're sitting in prison is smaller. They're not spending as much time in prison. They're getting out. They're having more reform programs outside, more rehabilitative programs, more letting people out for good behavior, something that we have not experienced before. Yes, there are people who are incarcerated in the United States. Yes, it might seem a high amount. However, we have a nation that has a large amount of violent crime. Therefore, our solution to that is to protect our citizens, protect the best interests of people. And the main idea is that we do not get misconstrued in the fact of whether or not the incarceration level is high or low, because that doesn't matter. That is a reflection of the crime that's happening. What is more important is that we are fair, and that is what is fair. It's fair that if someone commits a crime, that they are put away for it. And it doesn't matter if there is 50,000 people in jail if they are all guilty. And that is what's more important than whether or not we have a lot of people in there. If they're all guilty, that is where they need to be so they can be reformed, so that we can do the necessary steps that needs to happen to better our country.